All rivalries with UConn are on hold this season. Yeah, if you think you have a rivalry with UConn this season, you don't. You you absolutely don't, and that's okay. It's a gap year for rivalries, and I don't know why I can't say that word, but it's a gap year for rivalries with
There we
you.
go. There we go.
Tennessee, UConn, a rivalry that dates all the way back to the 90s, ended in a 30-point deficit. 96-66. By the way, this is Club Hoops podcast. I'm Natalie Franklin.
I'm Gregory Franklin.
I just want to get that in. Daddy, you seem like you had. Oh, sorry. We're a father-daughter duo before we go
Yes,
forward. Because I
yeah,
had
yeah.
to say that because I just called you daddy, and I don't want anyone to get confused on why I did that. It's my actual father. So,
Thank you. Nor
daddy.
do I.
Yeah,
Nor do I. No,
daddy.
it was a great game in the first half. The first half, it was a great game. Actually, the whole game was a good game, but Tennessee looked really, really good, and unfortunately, UConn looked really, really bad in that first half. But they got it together. They got it
Right.
together.
Right. But my point being with the rivalries, like, Notre Dame and UConn's kind of a rivalry. And I already said that's not going to be a game. I felt the same way about this. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised it was competitive in the first half. And to your point, was it competitive or was UConn just not playing UConn basketball? Right. It's like,
Look,
I don't want to take anything from Tennessee in that first half, but at the same time,
well, look. The game as the quote of a line from The Wire. The game is the game, right? Yeah, you're playing bad, but everybody has bad days. You still show up, and unfortunately, that I shouldn't say unfortunately. The way you play that day is the way you play. So I'm not gonna say just because they were playing badly, Tennessee got, something they probably shouldn't have got because they still had to play UConn. They're still UConn at the end of the day. So
yeah.
no, yeah, they were playing badly, but Tennessee, I felt like Tennessee took advantage of that. So
Well, we'll talk about that first half. I think Tennessee, obviously, their defense is what got them to a tie score at the first half. I think they came out with a lot of great energy, very aggressive, high energy, just doing everything right against, to your point, a UConn team. Now, Tennessee is in the SEC. I can't remember. Sorry, I should look this up. It's if this is the first SEC game that UConn has had this season. Can't quite remember. Sorry. I know someone in them comments like this isn't that fair, but I'm just trying to jog my memory. So, and as we know, SEC is a gauntlet. Tennessee's been decent in the SEC. I think they're 6-1. I think a non-conference games they've lost is about 4, but they've had a weird season, right? They've lost a player because of behavioral issues. They have a transfer from UCLA on their team in Janiyah Barker. There's some games they've dropped that they should have won, and then they came back. So they kind of have this up and down. And to your
yeah,
point, I will give them all the credit for that a first half well played. I think Connecticut was able to stay in it because they were scoring points off of Tennessee's turnovers. Now Tennessee is, I believe, fifth in defense in SEC. They force about 22 turnovers a night. They got close tonight. UConn had 22 turnovers and 10 by the half. So to your point, Daddy, at the end of the day, it's still UConn, and they still did very well on that front. The problem is, the problem is that Tennessee had their fair share of turnovers. I believe they had 15 turnovers, and UConn ended up scoring 36 points off of those turnovers. Um, yeah. What say you? What I feel like I'm talking. It's like you said. The first half was great. I almost want to stay in there, but as we move to the second half, there's not much to talk about. So let's stay in the first half as long as we can.
well, I'll stay in the first half, and that was a great data dump, by the way. Great, just getting all that data out there for folks to consume. I love that because I'm a data dude. I say this that that first half is what we have talked about in some other episodes, and that is the UConn getting bored with the game,
Yeah.
right? They come to the arena, they're at home, the crowd is cheering. They do their prep during the week. We're undefeated. We're just crushing folks in front of us. They come to the game and there's a slow start. Gino's challenge is treat every game as if you're playing the best team in SEC, best team in Big East, best team in Big Ten. That's hard to do when you're stacked like UConn is. So I think that first half is a reflection of, hey guys, get your head in the game. I saw Gino actually turn to the bench to one of his assistants, like almost like, "What's going on out there? I
Yeah.
don't understand."
Yeah.
And she shook her head like, "I don't know," kind of thing. So I think that first half on the UConn side was a reflection of them being somewhat complacent, and taking an opponent, just taking an opponent for granted.
Yeah.
The C side now, let's keep in mind, I think every team that faces UConn gets up for that game.
Yeah.
Okay. And sometimes you play above your skill level, and but you get up for that UConn game. I can only imagine what coaches are saying during that week. Hey, we're ranked number 15, we're gonna play them like we're ranked number one as well. And so you saw a Tennessee team who was up for the game.
Yeah.
And I think it took that initial shock, that UConn felt from Tennessee, and the scoring and just running amok up and down the court, confusing them defensively, taking advantage of certain offensive mistakes that UConn was making in regards to getting, offensive rebounds. So the first half was played relatively tightly, although UConn did not play like UConn.
Right, and I think even like you said, Gino was getting tired. Al Alfie came in for 2 minutes before the half ended, and that's when I knew Gino was, like, fed up. No shade to her, but, everyone has a role on the team, and she's usually not in that early and wouldn't be in that close of a game, and I think you're absolutely right. UConn maybe got a little complacent, didn't come ready to play as much as they should have because they did look very confused on offense and defense, and they weren't playing their game on offense, weren't moving the ball around. It was a lot of one pass and take a shot. They were leaving men open on defense, which is not like them. And we weren't seeing UConn basketball, but to your point, Tennessee, who got up ready to play, they clearly had a plan and executed it well in the first half. So when we moved to the second half, I'm not
Yeah.
laughing at Tennessee, but like as you said, Dad, watching the game, it's night and day. It's two different games happen in the second half. And I remember you said you would have loved to hear what Gino had to say at halftime. And I said the same thing, even though it was tied. I hope Tennessee doesn't really think they did anything because, as you and I know, good teams always find a way to win. UConn is definitely a second half team. If they need to turn it up, they will turn it up. But I also said they're going to play well because Gino's going to put the fear of God in them that time. He will be cussing them out, turning them every way but loose. Uh,
Yeah.
Obviously, we weren't in the locker room. What do you think? Maybe the tone or what was the message at halftime was from Gino?
So I don't. I've never seen Gino in the "I'm upset" mode. I'm not even sure he's upset here, but here's what I'm going to surmise based on the way he looked at that assistant coach on the bench and the way she shook her head. I am going to surmise that when he first came in there, he probably said something to the effect of, "Who are you guys? I don't know what team has shown up here today. I
Right.
am not seeing the team that worked hard to get here where we are now, to be undefeated. I am not seeing the players I put in charge, of sort of running my offense." I mean, I think he pointed the fingers at the stars. I don't
Yeah.
think he's the kind of person that would like take the role players and sort of spank them or slap them on the nose. I think he pointed the finger at the stars. I think he went, Sarah Strong, AZ Fudd. I think he got right with them and said, "I don't see it, guys. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I think he questioned them, and then he went on to the role players and say, "You know what? When your stars aren't shining, you folks have to step up. I'm not seeing it."
Right.
On defense, he probably specifically pointed to defense. I don't know what you guys are doing on defense. You're not even trying on defense. And that's what it looked like in the first half. They weren't really trying. They were out there just running up and down the court. There was a lot of spacing that shouldn't have went on in terms of letting Tennessee have tremendous amount of space, and I think he pointed that out. I also think in the end he said, "Look, if you don't want to play, let me know. I'll put somebody else in, and I have people on my bench to put in because they have a strong bench."
They do.
And yeah, right. So I think he sort of went. He first sort of went up and down, the starters and kind of told them, "Hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?" And then kind of beat them up a little bit. And then in the end, he said, "If you don't want to play, let me know because
Right.
you're not playing right now."
Right. And just to note, Blanca Quinones was out this game, so that maybe that kind of threw them off a bit. But I like your point about the depth because KK Arnold did not have a good game.
No.
Thankfully, they have K9. Thankfully, they have Zabel. So K9 came off the bench with 8 points, and she was just great. And Zabel 10 points. She was 3 from 6 for the field goal and hit two threes for them. And that's the depth they have when KK Arnold unfortunately only has 3 points. And I think she was 1 for 2 from field goal range. It just wasn't her game. But thankfully, you have AZ Fudd, dropped 27 strong, dropped 26, and then the supporting cast. They went on a great run in the third quarter, and Tennessee just never recovered. And another thing I talked about with UConn that gets overlooked on why they're so dominant and why a, a team's having great first half doesn't mean a lot. UConn is well conditioned. Their
Oh
conditioning
yeah.
is insane. Like they will outlast any team. So while Tennessee had high intensity, they're pressing. I said at halftime, it's great, but it's not sustainable, especially against UConn. You're not going to tire them. You're not going to wear them out. You aren't going to exhaust them. It's not going to happen. Everybody, not just the guards, the big everybody's welcome. They don't even sweat. I don't see any hard breathing. No one's like bent over holding onto their knees. Meanwhile, Tennessee's like, subbing Janiah Barker to give her a breather, and they're doing rotation. That's why I think I'm jumping ahead a bit in the fourth quarter when Tennessee's coach was still pressing. I'm like, what are you doing? First of all, you're down 20. Call
Yeah.
this press off because your team is too tired to execute it. They're not denying ball entry and they're not trapping. What's the point of this press? You're actually tiring your own team out against a team, again, that's well conditioned. Like, and I get it. Gina already said people are going to try to do a zone against us because Michigan did that. It's not going to work. I almost wanted to implore Tennessee, get in a half court setup and maybe try a zone because the press is that was first half, that was cute. Y'all can't do it in the second half.
No.
Abandon shit.
Well. Also, too, you're down by 20. There are 6 minutes left in the game. You don't, in my opinion, pressing doesn't help you in that regard. You need the ball.
Yeah.
Pressing hopefully delays, UConn into getting their offense, and maybe they run out all the time on the shot clock, blah blah blah. But you need the ball. Now, if you want to do something to try to get the ball, then do ball denial, right? Don't let the ball get in the hands of AC Bud. Get the ball in someone who really has problems dribbling, and then double that person and attack it that way. But for me to see a press with 6 minutes left in the game, I'm down by 20. I I just don't think that's a good use of time
Right. Or energy in that
or
case. Uh,
energy for that.
I just want to note too that UConn outscored Tennessee 46-24 in the paint as well. So that did not help them. And they had more fast break points too. Let me pull up this stat because I can't remember off the top. They had 22 fast break points to Tennessee 6. I think again, great first half. But if you didn't watch the game, you looked at the box scores, this looks like a dominating performance overall by UConn. And again, this was the first time all season UConn didn't have the lead at halftime. So that says something to Tennessee. They're trending in the right direction. I just think it's time for everyone to realize this UConn team is legit. I get people want to say, well, they don't play in the SEC and well, they haven't really had competition. Well, we've seen them a couple times now face adversity, face some challenges where they've had to adjust. And they've adjusted just fine. Like I hope none of you were worried, or if you're a UConn fan, panicked at halftime. And if you're a Tennessee fan, I hope you didn't get too excited at halftime because this is just a team with so much depth and poise, first of all, and they just adjust. From the coaching staff to the players, they're just so well disciplined, well conditioned. I'm not too sure what the strategy, if you're a team that has to play UConn, what your strategy is going to be. I don't
Yeah,
know at this point.
I think teams
I'm also not
are
a basketball coach, though. I want to note that.
okay, but I think teams at this point are trying anything and everything. You know, they're trying to be. Some teams are being physical with them. Some teams are trying to outrun them. That's a mistake. Some teams are trying to slow them down. Can't be done. Okay, UConn can't be slowed down. And so the challenge is, you know, for teams who are approaching, you know, who are going to play UConn is who do we can we take away players and still win? Can we take away, you know, Strong? Can we take away Fudd and still win? So they're going to be challenging things. UConn though in my opinion, UConn has the biggest challenge of any team in any division, and that is how do I stay focused? How do I stay interested?
Hmm.
Because all I want to do is get to March,
Yeah,
and how do I get to March? You know, as the team as a dominant team.
yeah,
And that's hard to do when you know you essentially you know in your own mind we can beat anybody we want to beat whenever we want to beat them
yeah.
in any kind of way we want to beat them.
Right,
So that's really tough. So UConn, the only team that can beat UConn is UConn.
right.
And so you really have to kind of focus on if I'm playing UConn, I have to focus on a variety of strategies. Maybe it's not one strategy and hope it works.
Right. Right. And I don't want to say unfortunately, but it looks like that type of competition is going to come from maybe the number 2 seed, the 3 seed, maybe even the 4 seed, but it's not coming from any team below 5. I'm so
It's an,
sorry. It's not. I mean,
yeah.
and, you know, we'll leave space for anything can happen. You know, injuries happen, and you know, like today in the first half, teams have bad games. But again, I'm trying to see who's up for the challenge because UConn seems to they're still rolling, still rocking, still rolling. Again, if you have a rivalry, you don't this season, and that's okay. That's okay. Um, Make sure you like and subscribe this episode. Put in the comments, do you think Tennessee just wasn't up for the challenge and there's still a team out there that can beat UConn? Or do you think this is how it's going to be until the Final Four, until we get all the way to the Natty? Or maybe you already put your bet in Las Vegas that UConn's winning the Natty. I don't know. Whatever. Fight in the comments. I really don't care. Uh, Um, UCLA and Iowa play. That's the next probably big matchup here. We'll probably do an episode on that, given how that game goes. Dad, you were saying, I want to give you a moment because we did a whole UCLA episode and you forgot to bring this up. Before we wrap this up, your prediction for UCLA versus Iowa.
Well, I know a lot of folks, you know, feel like UCLA is probably going to like dominate Iowa. I think it's going to be a rough game.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a rough. I really do. I don't want to. I'm not taking away from UCLA and all that they've done. I still think UCLA is a great team. Don't get me wrong. I think, like I said, teams get up for certain teams, and I think Iowa's going to be up for this one.
Okay. And I have UCLA winning. We'll see what the turnout of that game is. We'll talk about it. But in the meantime, again, like, subscribe, and thank you as always for watching. Bye.